What's going on, guys, and welcome back to my Friday Night SmackDown audio review this week for January 6, 2023. I am Graham G.S. Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well, having a great weekend so far. Usually the SmackDown audio reviews go up on Saturdays. I did bump it a day this week due to my new interview that you can check out right now with the MLW World Heavyweight Champion from MLW, of course, Alexander Hammerstone. A new video going up yesterday talking all about building the brand, his current reign as the MLW World Champion, potential opponents, and so much more. So if you haven't already checked it out, please do so. That went up yesterday here in the channel. Today we are talking SmackDown, and a little bit later on, the SmackDown Lowdown as well. Unfortunately, this really wasn't that great of a show. I love the opening segment, I love the main event match / the closing segment, and that was really about it. Everything else in the middle served a purpose, and it was fine. We had some decent matches, nothing overly great, nothing really got a ton of time, which is fine. The main event got a decent amount of time, but nothing really overly exciting, no super compelling storyline progression, aside from the obvious, that being the Bloodline stuff and the opening and closing segments. That was really about it. I thought last week's SmackDown, nothing was really going to top that show, let's be honest. We had the return of Drew McIntyre, Charlotte, John Cena in the ring. That was a loaded show, and they delivered a very exciting episode to close out 2022. I was hoping for an equally exciting first SmackDown of 2023. It started off strong enough with that opening segment that I love, like I talked about, and some of the backstage segments with the Bloodline and the main event. But again, that all surrounded the Bloodline. Everything else on the show didn't exactly pique my interest. Fine show, solid show even, nothing great. I know SmackDown can do better. So let's start with the opening segment. The Bloodline was out there in their entirety. Roman Reigns, Sami Zayn, the Usos, Paul Heyman, Solo Sikoa. I wasn't sure that Roman Reigns was going to be on the show. The Usos and Sami did their usual shtick as they've done on Raw in recent weeks, where they came out at ringside and attempted to take over the commentary table and whatever. And then out came Roman Reigns. That was a pleasant surprise for me. Maybe they were advertising for this episode and I just wasn't aware. But Roman's been on SmackDown quite a bit lately. He was obviously on SmackDown last week for the main event tag team match. He was on SmackDown the week before that because they taped it the week before that on December 16th, which he was at, where he cut a promo. Or no, he was on that show, and that was where John Cena interrupted and they challenged him and Sami to a tag team match at that final SmackDown of the year. So he was on the December 16th SmackDown. He was on the December 23rd SmackDown, last week's SmackDown, and this week's SmackDown. Thankfully, he was on this show as I figured he might be. As soon as I saw him, I thought to myself, they have to set up the Undisputed WWE Universal Championship match for the Royal Rumble. We're mere weeks out from the pay-per-view. They did announce last week the Pitch Black match between Bray Wyatt and LA Knight. Obviously, the two Rumble matches. Even the Rumble matches themselves don't have a ton of hype right now. I know the matches sell themselves. It's the fucking Royal Rumble. But no one's really talking about the Rumble matches. I'm not talking about the fans. I'm talking about people on the roster. Usually people are declaring that I'll win the Rumble or that they're going to be in it or why they need to win. We've gotten none of that lately. I know their focus has been elsewhere. I know Raw had a week off on the day after Christmas due to the holiday and whatnot. So they haven't exactly had the momentum lately. But for the first week of 2023, they really should have kicked the Rumble hype into the next gear. They might be waiting till next week, the week after that. Why not start as soon as possible to maximize the excitement surrounding that event? We don't know if The Rock's showing up. We don't know if Cody Rhodes will be in the match. He very likely will be. I talked about that on Wrestle Rant Radio in my review of Raw. They're airing the video packages for a reason. They aired the Cody Rhodes video package, again from Raw on SmackDown on this show. So clearly, to me, he will be in the match, and they will announce him ahead of time. It will not be a surprise. I saw the electricity in the Rumble poster. Might just be a tease. Could The Rock be in the match? Could The Rock win the match? Could he even appear at the event? It's very possible. I'm not even really sure if I want him to at this point. And this is a whole other discussion I'll keep to a minimum so we can get back to SmackDown. But honestly, The Rock being at WrestleMania at this point fucks up so many plans for people like Cody, Roman. I know we get Roman and The Rock, and I don't want to be hypocritical because I do want to see that match / the feud. But with Cody, it kind of messes up his return run. It messes up what they might do with Rollins, among other people. I would much rather have a cleaner card without The Rock there, or at least not facing Roman Reigns, so we can finally get Cody facing and beating Roman for that championship, so we can be done with it and move on. I've been loving Roman's reign, but we have to reach an endpoint here, and Cody Rhodes needs to be the endpoint. If he's healthy enough to be in the Rumble and to be at WrestleMania and beat Roman, then I don't know why the fuck you wouldn't do it right now. Do not wait until SummerSlam. Don't wait until Money in the Bank. Don't wait until WrestleMania next year. Don't have Cody lose and then tell the story of, oh, he has to be built back up, that's a major risk. He may not be as hot when he come 2024 as he is when he comes back in a couple of weeks. But anyway, that's another discussion for a different day. As far as this segment goes, like I said, Roman was on the show. Sami was taking pride in the fact they dominated Raw, and they're kicking off SmackDown the same way they kicked off Raw in the new year with the Bloodline dominant. Roman was not in as a jovial mood as Sami Zayn, realizing that he's not talking about this year. He doesn't want to talk about 2023 yet. He still wants to talk about last year, specifically the final SmackDown of 2022, when Sami Zayn ate the pinfall loss against Kevin Owens. And he was about to lay into Sami Zayn before Kevin Owens came out. Kevin basically said, "We still have unfinished business, Roman. I won that match last week. I'm not asking, but rather demanding an opportunity for that undisputed WWE Universal Championship at the Royal Rumble," which will, as many of you probably know, mark the third match those two have had at that event since 2017. They had the match in 2017 at the Rumble for the Universal Championship that Kevin Owens won, actually, a no-holds-barred match via interference from Braun Strowman. The second match was at the 2021 Rumble in the Thunderdome. They had the Thunderdome match, the Last Man Standing match, which was great. Roman won that as well via interference from Paul Heyman and Jey Uso. And now we're getting a third match also for, technically, the WWE title as well, but the Universal Championship once again. In that first match back in 2017, took place at the Alamo Dome, which is where the Rumble this year is going to be as well. So, they're one win apiece at the Rumble. I assume Roman goes over. I feel like he has to go over. How Sami Zayn factors into that finish is really the question. Does Sami help Roman win, and then Roman turns on him right afterward? Or does Sami attempt to help Kevin Owens beat Roman for the belt, comes up short, Roman's not happy? I mean, we could see a scenario, as other people have pitched, where Sami is the one to turn on the Bloodline and not the other way around. Regardless, all roads to me, as many other people have said, have to lead not only to Sami and Owens taking the tag titles from the Usos at WrestleMania, but Sami versus Roman in Elimination Chamber in Montreal in February. It just has to. Could you do an Elimination Chamber match involving Roman and Sami among 4 other people? Sure, but we know Roman's going to win, so it's not even really worth it. I know Roman hasn't had Elimination Chamber yet as champion. He defended the championship twice in the last 2 years at the pay-per-view, but not in a chamber match. We know he's not going to lose the fucking belt in a chamber match a month before WrestleMania, so don't even put him in the chamber. I would just do Roman and Sami straight up, and then for the chamber match, keep it exclusive to the women, keep it exclusive to the mid-card titles, the tag titles, whatever the fuck. It doesn't have to involve Roman Reigns or the World Championship. There has never been consistency as far as there needs to be a men's chamber and the winner has to challenge for a World Championship at WrestleMania. With one world title right now, that's what the Royal Rumble is for. So don't have Cody Rhodes cash in early if he wins the Rumble, then he faces Roman in the Elimination Chamber. That would be stupid. That would be dumb. Don't do that. I don't even want to offer any other possibilities. That would be stupid. But back to the opening segment, I thought everyone here played their roles remarkably well. I continue to love the dynamic with Roman, Sami, and Kevin Owens. They're just terrific. We had Roman apologizing to Sami later on in the show backstage. Just everything about the angle is excellent. And then Roman invited Sami to watch the main event with him backstage, with Drew and Sheamus challenging the Usos for the tag team titles. So more on that later. The first match in the show saw Santos Escobar taking on and defeating Kofi Kingston, one half of the NXT Tag Team Champions. Good match here. Nothing overly out of the ordinary, nothing overly great. Just a good, well-wrestled match. It seemed like the sole purpose this served was building to the Royal Rumble. I mentioned there hasn't really been a lot of talk about the Rumble matches. There was on this show, not to the degree where I think it should have been at, but at least Santos and Kofi, who declared himself for the Rumble about a month ago, at least they're talking about the Rumble. Kofi, before this week, was the only person officially announced for the men's Royal Rumble match. You would think he was fucking winning the thing. No one else has bothered to say in the last month they're going to be in the men's or women's Rumble match. Thankfully on this show, Santos declared himself for the men's. Spoiler alert, Ricochet qualified with a win over Top Dolla, and Liv Morgan, via a pre-taped interview backstage, announced that she'll be in the women's Rumble. So at least we have that. But Escobar and Kofi was fine. Escobar won via outside interference per usual, but at least he won the match. I'm honestly down for a Legado versus New Day feud. Maybe not necessarily over the NXT Tag Team titles. I don't really think that's necessary. I was hoping when the New Day won the NXT Tag Team titles, they would stay exclusive to NXT and not appear as much on SmackDown, but they've pretty much been on SmackDown weekly for the last month, since they became the tag team champions. That probably isn't happening, which is fine. That's totally okay, especially now that Hit Row is heel. They need more babyface teams on SmackDown. I mentioned this in a tweet on Friday, and we'll get to the Hit Row stuff momentarily. But as far as heel teams go on SmackDown, they now have Hit Row, the Usos, Imperium, Viking Raiders, Maximum Male Models, and did I mention Legado? I think I mentioned Legado. There's at least one other heel team on SmackDown. That's like 6 heel teams, and the 2 babyface teams they have are the New Day, obviously, and there was another team as well. I don't remember, but it's pretty uneven right now is my point, so they're probably going to have to fix that at some point soon. The other match in the show right after Escobar and Kofi was Karrion Kross and Scarlett making their in-ring debut as a team here in WWE, on TV anyway, taking on Madcap Moss and Emma. They've been building this up for a couple of weeks now with Kross beating Moss twice in singles competition. They were looking for revenge. They lost, did Moss and Emma as they should have. They've been doing a lot of losing lately. I appreciate that they're in an angle together and they're actually dating in real life. And first of all, Moss is still Madcap, which is fucking dumb because Emma has called him Riddick before, as has the commentary team in the last couple of weeks. But anyway, it's nice that they're involved in an angle. It's better than nothing. But all they do is lose, so it's hard to care. But at least Kross and Scarlett won. It was a relatively short match, probably for the better. Scarlett in the ring looked fine. She was only in there very briefly. The match was like 3 minutes long, and they were probably in there, Emma and Scarlett, for maybe a minute of those 3 minutes. She looked okay. We've seen her in the ring before on Impact and Ring of Honor, MLW even last year. She was okay. Scarlett, I don't think being in the ring is her strong suit. I saw her in a match at an indie show last year, and she looked, honestly, a lot better than I thought she would. I don't think Scarlett needs to be contending for any championships, but if they want to put her in the ring, occasionally, for the occasional match alongside Karrion, or the occasional singles match where she's kept doing minimum stuff, I think that's perfectly fine. Breaking her off on her own, which was WWE's original idea for her when Vince was in charge 2 years ago, that would have been disastrous. Thankfully, Triple H knows better than to do that, and we'll keep them together. Kross also mocked Rey Mysterio afterward by putting a Rey Mysterio mask on Madcap Moss. So that feud is still clearly coming as well. Hasn't exactly progressed at a very exciting rate as of late. They're really dragging it out. Like last week, we got no progression with that whatsoever. But at least we're still getting that feud. We had Charlotte Flair out next, addressing the audience, and we got a thank you Charlotte chant, which may or may not have been piped in. Her just basically thanking them for welcoming her back. She was clearly a babyface here. The problem is that Charlotte naturally, organically, is not a babyface. I talked to her before. I've done interviews with Charlotte. She's a super nice person. As she has said before herself, unfortunately, in interviews, that people don't really take to her real-life persona very well on the shows. People just like to boo her. They cheered her the last couple of weeks because she's back. I don't think that's going to last, though. The majority of the audience, even the casuals, will see through that eventually and go back to booing her. It's just inevitable. She is a natural heel. The problem is that they have 2 top heels right now, as I talked about last week here in my audio review. They have 2 top heels in that division right now with Charlotte and Ronda Rousey. So they have to either turn one of them. Ronda either has to go away or be moved to Raw or whatever. Because Ronda's the top heel right now in that division, Charlotte by de facto is the top babyface. Not only that, but she's also the current champion. They need to find someone to occupy that top heel or that top babyface spot so Charlotte can go back to being a heel. Whether it's Raquel or someone else. I do fear, though, coming off of the latest video package for Lacey Evans on this show, she was supposed to debut last week. We were told 2 weeks ago that she would be on SmackDown last week. Not only did she not debut, it was not acknowledged at all. But they went back to airing the vignettes this week. No date on when she'll be back yet. But they went back to airing those vignettes, and she will be back eventually. I'm honestly fearing coming off that latest vignette, as other people have said on social media, that they're holding out till WrestleMania to do the WrestleMania match between Charlotte Flair and Lacey Evans for the championship, which, I really fucking hope not. I pray to God that is not the case. I know they were going to do that match. Reportedly, the plan 2 years ago was to have Lacey beat Asuka for the Raw Women's Championship at Elimination Chamber. This was during the Thunderdome era. And then Lacey would have defended against Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania. Lacey got pregnant and was gone for a year. And then Charlotte, that whole thing where I think they thought she was pregnant, although she wasn't. She never actually appeared on that show. They took her off TV. She disappeared from TV, did not resurface until the night after WrestleMania. So, Neither of them ended up being on that WrestleMania. We ended up getting a much better match between Asuka and Rhea Ripley instead for the Raw Women's Championship. It worked out for the better. Unfortunately, they might still have their... You would think Vince was still in charge. If we end up getting Charlotte and Lacey at WrestleMania, I may lose a lot of faith in Triple H as a booker, because I'm not sure if anyone wants to fucking see that shit. Maybe an Elimination Chamber just to get out of the way. At WrestleMania, no fucking thanks. But Charlotte was interrupted in the segment by Sonya Deville. They had an impromptu match for the SmackDown Women's Championship. It was not great. It was fine. For the time given, it was okay. No one sees Sonya Deville as a threat to that championship. She's been back in the ring now for a year, which I appreciate because that authority figure stuff went on for way too long. She really hasn't had the chance to do much of anything in the ring since coming back. She's been losing a lot on both Raw and SmackDown. She switched brands a lot. It honestly feels like she's regressed in the ring. She's not awful, but I haven't really seen a great Sonya match since the stuff with Naomi a year ago. They had great chemistry. She was having good matches with Mandy Rose in 2020 as well. Ever since she returned to the ring after the Naomi feud ended, she's been doing a whole lot of nothing. So I don't know, and I'm not really sure what the quick fix is there. Anyway, so we had that. Ricochet and Top Dolla in a qualifying match for the Men's Royal Rumble match. Ricochet won in a matter of minutes. Top Dolla dominated most of the match. Again, not a great match, but probably for the better that it was kept short. As we all expected, Top Dolla went off on Ricochet afterward, along with the rest of Hit Row, now a heel faction, and they continued to beat down Ricochet until Braun Strowman, who's a good friend to Ricochet, showed up and made the save. So, I like that fact, because Ricochet's made the save for Braun before. It would have been very dumb for Braun to be backstage, and I know Braun's in the midst of a feud right now with Imperium. It would have been very dumb for Braun to not make the save for the guy that's made the save for him several times in the last couple of weeks. So I like the fact they've established an alliance and a friendship between Ricochet and Braun. But this was okay. Ricochet's in the Rumble, as he should be. Why certain people have to qualify for the Rumble and not others? Like Kofi could just say that he was in it. Top Dolla was a moron and didn't say that he was declaring himself for the Rumble. He probably should have just done that. Maybe, hey, listen, he didn't qualify. He could still say, though, I guess, I declare myself for the Rumble despite not qualifying. That is still a possibility. I hope not. I like Hit Row. I like Top Dolla. I don't think they should waste a spot on tag team guys like Eric and Ivar and fucking Joaquin Wilde, who listen, I like these people, but to waste spots on tag team people who are not important. Kofi's an exception. He's a former WWE champion. If you want to put Woods in there, that's okay. He's a former King of the Ring. To waste spots on people like Ashanti the Adonis, fucking even Angelo Dawkins, listen, I like the Profits. To put those people in the Rumble when you have no shot in hell of winning, it's a complete fucking waste. I'd rather see them put single stars with more credibility than them in the Rumble. Just my opinion. So, the fact they have certain people qualifying and other people's not is weird, especially when no one else has declared for the Rumble so far, so surely there's enough open spots to where they could just declare, but whatever. I do like the idea of qualifiers, but they just gotta make them make sense. As far as heel Hit Row, it's their last shot. Other people have already written them off, and that's perfectly fine. I can completely understand that. They just have not gotten over since coming back. They had to do something. They had to at least try to turn them heel, because they arrived on the main roster as heels back in late 2021. The difference was that at that point they had Swerve, they became popular, people liked Hit Row. It made sense to have them be a babyface faction. At this point, no one gave a fuck about them as babyfaces. They got good heat here, but again, was it piped in? Was it not? It's hard to tell. This may end up not making much of a difference, especially when SmackDown already has so many other heel teams, as I mentioned, that are better than Hit Row. I don't see this working out well for them. I mean, time will tell. I would really hope they can turn it around. It still feels like they're missing an ingredient here, that being Swerve Strickland, but that's not going to happen. Can they put Carmelo in the group or someone else that would make sense? I would hope so. I don't know who that person would be at this point. I don't know if they would even want anyone else in the group because they keep talking, oh, we're the OG3, we're the original Hit Row. Okay, then if that's the case, they probably don't want anyone else in their group. Tough shit, though. You're not getting over on your own. You need an extra member that's more talented than you guys. All due respect. We'll see. I don't really see the heel turn making a big difference, but it had to happen. I appreciate they're at least trying with them. And if this doesn't work, it's probably time to call it quits. In what way, I don't know. I'm not saying get rid of them, but the act may be damaged goods if this heel turn doesn't work out, so time will tell. The main event was the undisputed WWE Tag Team Champions, the Usos, defending against Sheamus and Drew McIntyre. Great match here, as you would expect, got a ton of time. I'm glad we even got the match, because they announced this match for SmackDown like a month ago, and Drew couldn't make the show due to an injury. So they replaced Drew with Butch instead. We got Sheamus and Butch. And Sheamus lost that match, too. Sheamus has lost a fucking lot lately. He lost to Solo Sikoa last week. He lost to Sami Zayn a month ago. He lost the tag team match, the tag team title match I mentioned last month. He lost the War Games. He lost again here. I can't remember the last match the guy won. And he also ate the pinfall here as well. But it was a really good match. Hard to complain. Still the tag team champions, the Usos, as they should be, at least until WrestleMania. As we all know, we discussed that earlier. Great stuff. They didn't show this here on the show, but I saw in a .com exclusive on their YouTube channel from WWE that the Viking Raiders randomly attacked Sheamus and Drew after the show was over. So, I don't know if that's a feud. I'm all for Sheamus and Drew continuing to team, because if they're not teaming, I'm not really sure what else you do with them. I mentioned earlier, SmackDown needs more babyface teams. Do we get a Sheamus and Drew versus Legado feud? Like, does anyone really care about that? Because they're just much bigger stars than Legado right now. Maybe, I don't know. I'm not really sure what you do. They'll probably face Viking Raiders next week just to pick up a win because they need a fucking win. At least Sheamus does. Because Sheamus has lost a lot lately. I'm not really sure what more you do because I don't think they'll be in... I don't think the match at Mania should be some jumbled up tag team title mess with Sheamus and Drew and the Profits and all these other fucking teams. No, it's got to be Owens and Zayn versus the Usos straight up. I honestly don't really know what else you do with Sheamus and Drew. I wouldn't have them turn on each other and have another series of matches. Been there, done that. I'm not honestly really sure what else you do with those guys. But if you want to continue teaming them for now, at least until Mania when you can figure out something else for them to do, that's perfectly fine by me. The overall show, though, as I mentioned, was not good. The best stuff from the show was the Bloodline stuff. The main event was great. The opening segment was tremendous. Just must-see television. I tweeted this on Friday, but I stop everything I'm doing every time the Bloodline is on the show, specifically Roman Reigns, to see what he has to say. And it's always meaningful stuff. It's rarely they're treading water. I mean, there have been a lot of Bloodline segments where Roman just comes out, talks, and that's it. And there's nothing really furthered or whatever. But we've gotten a lot of progression with Sami and Roman the last couple of months. So we're living it right now. We're eating this shit up. The rest of SmackDown could still use some work. They got some feuds, and there are some moving parts. They need some better shows, though, heading into the Royal Rumble, as well as on the road to WrestleMania. Thank you guys for checking out my review of the Blue Brand from Friday. I appreciate it. Be sure to like this video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. As I mentioned at the beginning of the review, be sure to check out right now my interview with the MLW World Heavyweight Champion, Alexander Hammerstone, talking all about Blood and Thunder from last night, his reign so far as World Champion, potential opponents, building the MLW brand, and so much more. That's up right now here on the YouTube channel from yesterday, and I should have my review of the SmackDown Lowdown up at some point a little later today, and also tomorrow. Very positive. I would be surprised if I can't get it up tomorrow. The return of hashtag GSM4GM episode, I think 17, coming back for the first time in about a month here on the channel. Have an awesome one, guys. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.